Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Nasdaq Spotlight. I am your host, Teresa Evans, account manager at Nasdaq. In honor of today's Black History Month Summit taking place at Nasdaq, joining me today is Kay Wallace, President and CEO of the National Black MBA Association. She has years of experience in strategy and operations after holding leadership positions at the Atlanta Olympic Games, McKinsey & Company, and Dow AgroSciences, among others. Kay, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank
Very
you for
happy to
having
have
me.
you here. So you recently took on the role of CEO at the National Black MBA Association. And so I just want to first congratulate you on,
Thank you.
on taking on that role. So within the association, what do you define as the keys to success for diversity and inclusion?
So we define success for diversity and inclusion definitely as we're working with our corporate partners and our collegiate partners. We define success as not only having representation within the organization, but it's having it throughout. So from entry level to executive level, there should be representation of Black leaders and leadership, as well as all diversities, and they should span the entire
Absolutely.
range.
Absolutely. And within those initiatives, how are you measuring success along the way?
So we look at success as not only who do you hire, but who do you retain, develop, and promote. So we look at all of those factors when we're talking with our partners, and especially when we're trying to help people understand what are ways that they can improve their performance as it relates to African Americans throughout their business. And so it's not only who do you bring into your organization, but how do you develop and how do you continue to invest in your employees, and how do you represent yourself to your consumers as well as to the community, because it takes representation in all of those facets. If you just do it in one where you have people within your organization, but how you talk to your consumers doesn't reflect that the value that you place on Black consumers or the Black community, it shows. So you gotta fire on all cylinders. So
Yes.
we look at all of those factors.
Yes, it's important to take that holistic approach. And
Yes.
So, as we mentioned, Nasdaq is hosting our Black History Month Summit today, and it's focused. Most of the panels are focused around bridging business and community. So, how at the National Black MBA Association are you bridging business and community, and how are you even doing that in your professional life as well?
Oh, thank you. So one of the great things is that we're 50 years old this year. And when you look back and look at how we started as an organization, it was not only a focus on having Blacks become entrepreneurs, Blacks go into corporate America, wealth building, but it was also how do we continue to give back to the community? So the community has always been a focus for us. As an organization, it's a part of our founding, as well as when we're working with corporations and even our own work. It is also how do we give to the community. One of the ways we do that is not only do we focus on people who are pursuing degrees in business as a part of how people come into the National Black MBA Association, we actually have a program called Leaders of Tomorrow, which is a program for students 9th through 12th grade. We introduce them to business very early, business concepts, business theory, and that is done by our 39 chapters throughout the nation. And that is a very strong link for us with the community as it relates to education. As it relates to entrepreneurship, we do a lot of things with people so that they can, who own their own enterprises in communities, so that they can scale faster, increase their operations, grow their business. And so that's another way that we're actively involved with the community through National Black MBA.
Oh, that's fantastic. And even in your own professional life, are you active in other community organizations?
Yes,
doing that as well,
yes.
so.
I serve on several boards in Atlanta. I've been there for 30 years, so but that's always been a part of who I am, as well as my family, about service and community service and giving back. But I mentor young people as early as high school, college, early stage professional lives. That's important for me to be able to give back. But also I live in the city of Atlanta, and I do a lot in my community around our urban planning and urban development. That's important to me personally.
That's great to hear, and we're very excited to hear even more about that in our event today.
Okay.
So kind of transitioning back into the corporate world, their D&I reports have become very popular. And in your experience with working with some of the largest companies, how are these companies effectively addressing the lack of diversity and inclusion and sort of using these reports to do that?
Well, one of the things that we know is that our work is not done. There's a lot to celebrate, a lot has been done, but there's still a lot to do, especially when we're talking about having Black leaders span the entire pipeline within organizations. We tend to have one or two people who progress and do very well, but either they retire or may decide to do something else or move on within the company, and it leaves a gap. So we know that in order for us to be sustainable, that the pipeline has to be full. And so we work to get people who are experienced professionals placed in corporations. So it's not as if you don't come in as an entry person, you can't have an opportunity within an enterprise. So helping companies understand, yes, you have to grow some people, but then and develop some, but then you literally have to bring some people in as well in order to have enough people in the pipeline so that when opportunities come up, you should have several people to consider. So we work with companies to try to help them to understand that if you don't have a span of representation in your company, then there's a need for the leaders to value that. I know, having been in enterprises, we do what we value. And so the ability to help people understand as a leader, how do you show that value? When we value profitability, we get it. When we value sustainability and alternative energy sources, when we value those things, we find that it happens. The same thing happens here. We can take the learnings for how we've transitioned from thought to thing to results, measurable results in other facets of a company, and use that same approach. So when you value it, you will do it. Business has shown that time and time again. And so we know that the ability of the CEO to state that value, he or she has to lead that charge. And once they lead that charge and their leadership understands that, the management understands that, it happens. And so we just need to go do that.
Wow. That's great insight. Thank you. So Kay, we appreciate your time. We are truly honored to have you here with us today. And we just thank you for sharing your experiences, and we look forward to hearing more from you at our event.
And thank you for having me.
Thank you. Nasdaq followers, please stay tuned for more coverage coming to you right here on this channel. Until then, we are signing off from